go get a beer if you want. Welcome to Apocalypse Queen Radio. This is a copyrighted podcast for Authors on the Air for Global Radio Network. I'm here today with R.E. McDermott. Can I call you Bob? I should have asked.
Absolutely.
So this is Bob McDermott, but his writer's name is R.E. McDermott. Welcome to Apocalypse Queen Radio. I'm your host, author A.R. Shaw.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on, being brave, and dealing with me.
It's never a chore.
Okay, I pretty much finished reading Under a Telltale Sky, and I wondered about the title. Can you tell me let's tell me, why did you write the story? What was your frame of mind whenever you first started on it?
Well, as far as the title goes, Under a Telltale Sky, it's about a coronal mass ejection and a solar flare, as opposed to an EMP per se, from military purposes. And the first inkling of it was some guys on a ship in North Carolina, and the northern lights were just vivid across the entire U.S. down as far as Mexico. And so that was the telltale sky to tell them that the event was coming. And that was I was searching for something to tie in the title with the story with,
I think there's a few things that tie that in when you read. There's a couple of things that tie it in. I wasn't sure about it at first, but yeah, there's definitely several things that kind of tie that title down. I think I think it was brilliant. I think that was a great title.
The only problem with artistic titles sometimes is they're a bit too artistic. Whereas if you say EMP in 3 big letters across the front, people know what it is. So sometimes we kind of outsmart ourselves on the artistic side, I think.
No, I think you did. Yeah, no, I liked it. So what is it about, in your words? What is it about?
Basically, it's about as many of our books are about the loss of the grid and all that happens thereafter. And I follow different sets of people. And I start off setting it on a ship because, I was 40 years in the marine industry, and most of my stories revolve around ships and merchant ships as opposed to Navy ships. And ships are actually a pretty good place to be in the event of an EMP because they're basically self-contained cities.
Right.
But there's all sorts of problems inherent on the ship because as it's in port in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it can't discharge. It's a tanker. It can't discharge its cargo of gasoline and diesel, and things start going to pieces. And of course, the society collapses, and the gangs in the city start taking over. And the crew, obviously, many of them live in Texas. Some of them live in Maine. They all want to go their separate ways. The captain wants to get back to Texas. And about that time, everybody starts looking at, well, hey, these are people sitting on 3 months worth of food and enough gasoline to last us for a year. And, it's not necessarily a real good place to be. So I follow the groups of people as some of them leave the ship and try to make it back to Maine by foot. The prepper guy happens to live in the North Carolina area. I have some Coast Guardsmen that are basically without orders, and one of the Coast Guardsmen's son is in the 101st Airborne, and they get recruited into a government that kind of goes off the rails. And it's all kind of an interwoven 4 or 5 different stories throughout the trilogy, which is what it ends up being. I call it the Disruption Trilogy.
Right. We have a couple. We don't want to give the whole story away.
Okay.
We have a couple of folks. I don't know if you can see it on the right. I don't think you can yet. But
I see something on the left.
See comments?
Comments. Yeah. Okay. I can do that.
came through. So Cheryl Elliott, she says woohoo. And then Michael Havelka is a really wonderful friend of mine. He's a chemist. He's a great resource if you ever need him.
Okay.
Was Pittsburgh here. And then, Barry Richhart. Is that one of yours? He says, "Hi, Robert. This is Barry Richhart from Fort Worth, Texas."
He's one of my readers. Yes, we've corresponded before.
Adrian Wheeler, you're welcome. If you can see the comments, you're welcome to talk to them.
I'm seeing mainly not comments as much as just.
Okay.
Some of them seem to be kind of truncated. Okay, I see someone plugging Tom Dugan. Thank you, Cheryl. That's my other series.
Yeah, Barry, you can't hear. Can you hear Bob, or you can't hear me? The audio is muted. Is there a mute button that I can see? Cheryl, can you hear us? Hover over the speaker and unclick the X. Can they not hear us? Oh no. They have to hear it. Can you guys hear us? Can you say so? Michael, can you tell me if you can hear us? Darn.
Okay.
Hang on just a second. Okay, hang on. Jack says he can hear us. Okay, thank you. So I think it might. Okay. I think it might. Russell Hubble. Maybe it's on your end. I'm sorry.
I can't hear. I can hear you and no one else.
Okay, then you're fine. We're good then. Okay. Sorry. Sorry for that. Okay, well, let's keep.
Okay, and Russell Scott says he can hear us loud and clear.
Wonderful. Okay, good.
And Russell and I have been trading. He's a native Texan like myself, and he's moved up to near me in Tennessee, and we've been in search of good barbecue.
In Texas or Tennessee?
Well, our Texan tastes don't seem to jive with the Tennessee barbecue. They do it Memphis style, and we like it a little bit different. So.
And that is a serious problem. I'm in Idaho currently, so yeah, being a Texan and looking for Texas style barbecue, yeah, find it only in Texas. So yeah, I have to go home for that.
And I see my good friend Mark Van Ram, who is my one of my classmates from Maritime Academy. So, hi, Mark. Joe Mahoney, yeah.
Huh? This is why it's wonderful. You get to connect with your fans and talk with them.
Yeah, see Jack McGugan.
Jax.
Yeah, he lives in Tennessee. He's a fan. So.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
And you at home, if you'd like to post your questions, we'll ask Bob about his series. Black's Barbecue in Lockhart, Texas, says Mark Van Ram.
Mark's a cyclist, and he cycled across. That's bicycle, not motorcycle. Across the states, and he spent a long time in Texas. Takes a long time to get across Texas east to west on a bicycle. So.
I know in San Antonio, what is it? There's a couple of places there that are really good. Yeah. Anyway. Let's see. Okay, so you definitely have a background in maritime. That's very obvious from writing, and there's a couple of different things. So I always try to pick out some of the funny things that I see in books. The humor, because this is not a humorous thing we write about.
Yeah.
It's tough. This is terrible, horrible things, but then we seem to wiggle in this humor occasionally, and one I thought was funny. So at one point, one of the boats was being boarded by Cubans, or almost boarded by Cubans. And the guy said, and I will paraphrase because I can't cuss. I'm a lady, sorry. I mean, I have family, but I try not to. Okay, so not that I'm saying there's a lot of cuss words in your book, but there's a couple. I'm
a sailor, what can I say?
Anyway, anyway, he says, so there's like 5 guys on the ship, and they're trying to come up with ideas to keep the Cubans from actually taking the cargo and boarding the ship. And at one point he says, does anybody have any ideas, or should we all start brushing up on our Spanish? I'm trying to say that without laughing, but it is funny. So yeah, you have to come. I mean, that's a serious crisis. You're about to be boarded. There's nowhere to go. They're going to open fire on you, and what do?
Yeah.
So I just thought that was hilarious. Mark Van Bram says, when is your next book coming out?
I'm working on it. I quit giving expected dates because I'm horrible at deadlines. And I'd give a date, and then I'd slip it a month, and I'd slip it a month, and I'd slip it another month. So I no longer do that, but I'm going to be seeing Mark in September, and I'll give you the lowdown then, Mark. So.
That's good. Okay, and then let's see. I would say that, after almost completely reading your first book, that a lot of it is, I would say it's similar to A. American Chris Weatherman's work, but you have a whole new set of information in your novels that I've never read before. So there's quite a bit of information in there, and anyone who reads, a lot of our fans read these books just for these particular things that they could use in a survival situation, or things that they should prepare for. For example, now this one I thought it was kind of funny because I would screw it up totally. So someone put a red dot of nail polish on their magazines, and the guy said that he loaded the ones with the red dot with regular rounds, right? While there was nothing on the magazines with the low noise rounds, so when you're in emergency, you know which magazine to grab, right? Yeah, I would be thinking, is the red dot for the ones with the low sound, or isn't that special? So I would totally screw that up, but I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, you might have a point. I probably should have had him put a L in red red nail polish for low.
Honestly, it's a matter of what works for you and what training yourself and what works for you.
Yeah.
But if someone were to tell me, okay, so the red dot ones are the normal ones, later I would totally do that, and I would think, doesn't that mean that they're special? In my mind, I would mess it up. Let's see, you do have some more questions here. Go right ahead and answer them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Russell Scott, how do you think the new U.S. and other countries' tariffs and proposed ones will impact global commercial shipping? I really don't know, and what I think is that the jury's still out on this, and whether this is just posturing and the tariffs will actually take place or not take place. This is all a big negotiation. So, without getting too deep in the politics, I think there's a lot of posturing right now. So I can't really say how it will actually pan out, but I think there's a lot of drum beating right now, and we'll see what happens, a year down the road. So.
Oh. Elliot says, do you read all of your reviews? Are there funny ones, absolutely horrible ones that you want to share?
I do read my reviews, and everybody says that they don't, but they always do. And I think when I wrote my first book, like we all do, we put the book out there and try to get people to review it. And my very first review was from a very lovely lady in England named Elizabeth, who said that it was absolutely stunning and brilliant and so forth. And I thought, what a nice lady. Oh. And the very next review was from a lady that said, I got this book free, and I'm certainly glad, because it was the most horrible thing I've ever read. Yeah. So I guess on balance, I got a 1 and a 5, so I was doing a 2.5. So
This is Henry, everybody. He went to the doctor.
Something's happened here. Password manager's trying to interfere. Let's see.
I don't.
Maybe if I can click that off. Okay.
You look fine with us.
Okay, hang on. Let me go. Here we go. I'm back again. Okay. My computer was trying to take over. It does that frequently. So.
Let's see. Russell Scott says, question for Bob. How do you think, no, sorry, we already went through that one.
Okay.
This is what I was seeing. So as a former ship's agent, I'm looking forward to your maritime references. And he does have many. There was one where he said, he was talking about, one of his characters was discussing the sextant, and that he was going to have to find it and dust it off. That's a hard science. What I thought about that was, I'm a ham radio operator. I was a radio operator in the military, and it's not a common skill. You have to seek out that training, that knowledge, and this is something else that should be taught more. Don't you think? Nobody really used one.
In actual fact, the Federal Maritime Academy, where I went, Kings Point, and all the 6 state maritime academies still teach celestial navigation and the sextant. About 10 years ago, the Naval Academy, with apologies to my friend Steve Conkley, quit teaching celestial navigation, and only now they're starting to say, well, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. If something happens, we have to rely on the old standby. So they're starting to teach it again at the Naval Academy, which is, I think, a good thing. It's you may never use it, but it's good to know at least the basics.
Right, and that's the same thing with radio operators. Whenever I went in, when we were being trained, they had already dropped the Morse code requirements. And it's, now I wish we had gotten to learn that. However, it is a really hard thing to learn. Same thing as the sex. Yeah.
Well, when I was going to school, we had the requirement that we had to learn Morse code on the blinker light, and all merchant ships officers did, and you had to pass a test. Mm-hmm. And Mark is there; he'll correct me, but I believe it was 6 words a minute or 10 words a minute. And because after you got to sea, most of the ship's officers, you passed it for the test and you never had to do it again. So everybody just talked on the VHF on the radio when you were coming in. And the only exception was when you were meeting a U.S. Navy ship, because the Navy ships, had signalmen. That's all they did. They lived for that. So, you'd go up on the bridge and the Navy'd start blinking at you and everybody, what did he say? So on my first ship to sea, and this will date me a little bit, I was on the SS Ruth Likes, and we were coming into Saigon, Vung Tau, which is the harbor for Saigon, with a full load of beer. And the Navy ship that was stationed out near the anchorage, of course, started blinking at us. And the old man, the skipper, says, of course, get the cadet. He's the only one that still knows how to do this. So the ship's blinking at me, and I'm trying to puzzle it out. And I finally get the standard thing. They say, what ship, where from, where bound, what cargo. So I'm laboriously blinking it back. When I get to the ship, what cargo? He starts blinking. I put beer, and he starts blinking. And the captain said, what did he say? He says, proceed in Godspeed.
That's funny. And those are great stories. That's pretty cool. Those are great stories.
See, Mark's also saying, give a plug to the narrator, which is Kevin Pierce, which we have in common. So Kevin does a great job on the narrations of the books.
Yeah, always. He's such a wonderful guy. I'm so lucky that he just recently accepted my new series.
Yeah, I saw that.
Thrilled to know that he's going to do that. Like what's in the shipping containers? All kinds of things. Samuel says everything. Yes. Let's see. Jack said we're behind here on questions, I think.
Oh, I think you're right. Let's see. Samuel Worstel says he has a sextant, can use it. Good man.
Any chance a movie or a made-for-TV movie is in the works?
I would love to say yes, but Hollywood hasn't come knocking. So
Samuel says it basically gives you the angle between the horizon and the sun. With that and the time, you can calculate your latitude.
yes,
Yeah. But you know what? They don't even teach cursive in school anymore.
that's
So
true.
we're going to have all these things we can do as old folks that are millennials and younger children will think
Yeah.
we're gibberish and we could ask for beer and they'd never know. Just write it in cursive and then have someone send it by Morse code.
Well, you got a point there.
Yeah.
It's like the Navajo code talkers during World War II.
Morse code, they totally lost. They're blinking lights and funny scribbles. Who knows what they're talking about? I ever got an Mark Van Ram says blinking light is the only thing I ever got an F in. Yeah. We never had to do the blinking lights. You had to hear it. And it's very difficult to hear it and do that. But people do it, it's possible. Okay, so you guys keep coming with the questions and we will keep talking about the story. The Guide to the Appalachian Trail. I've never heard anyone put that in a story, and that was an excellent addition because roads are impassable and that's been proven with earthquakes, hurricanes, So
I had a cheat sheet there in that our youngest son hiked the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine 3 or 4 years ago. So he gave me his well-thumbed guide, and plus he had like probably 10,000 pictures along the way. So I had that as a handy reference, and then he would also, look over what I'd read and tell, well, that's not quite right, Dad. This isn't accurate, and so forth. So I had my own kind of family reference for those sections of the book about the Appalachian Trail. So that was
yeah, and great for readers who read our stories for these types of things. That was a good one there. Mark Van Ram says, how do you come up with story ideas?
I don't know. That sounds kind of lame, but they're just kind of there. I mean, I daydream about different things and what if this happened, and as I'm sure I mean, normally quite a full-blown story can just kind of evolve out of an idle musing about what happened, what would happen if this and this, what if this and what if that. Yeah. And I think the biggest help in becoming a writer and a storyteller was when I first started, I read a lot of books on craft and so forth. And I think the one that did me the most good, and I'm sorry to say I can't even remember the name of the book, but it was tension on every page. That you can spend too much time explaining something. There has to be some tension in it, and the example they used was, a schoolyard and two kids getting in a fight, and everybody runs to watch that, but nobody ever watches the two kids playing and getting along. I mean, there's a car wreck, people watch that. If there's a fight, people watch that. But there has to be some conflict, and it can be just emotional, like someone biting back their anger when they're getting an unjust dressing down or something. But there has to be conflict. If everything's nice, then nobody wants to read that,
Right. Why are we writing a story? There has to be something.
Yep.
Samuel says, have you ever transferred between ships on a pallet in a net in 15-foot swells?
I have not. I have gone off a drill ship in a personnel net in some pretty good swells. But I haven't transferred between a ship and a boat. So I guess technically, yes.
I can only imagine. Russell Scott says the sand pebbles. Oh,
say again.
Was that the name of the title of the book you were talking about that you read? The Sand Pebbles?
Yes, the sand. Well, that wasn't the name of the book that I was referring to, but the Sand Pebbles is one of my, well, it's probably my favorite novel. So, and I think Russell knows that. But no, I was talking about a book on writing craft. But The Sand Pebbles is a great book if you haven't read it.
No,
a lot of people have seen the movie with Steve McQueen, which is, again, dates me, 60s type.
McQueen is. I had a birthday this week, so. But I remember Steve McQueen. Goodness. Yeah. Okay, we're not going to talk about how old I actually am. Cheryl Elliott says, "What is the next series going to be about?"
Well, actually, I have a series that I've been, and it's not a post-apocalyptic series. I have a World War II series that I've been wanting to write for some time about the Battle of the North Atlantic and merchant shipping during World War II, which is quite a tragic story that not very many people know about. It's kind of like one of the unsung stories of World War II.
I have rediscovered stories from World War II. If you've not read Beneath the Scarlet Sky,
I have read that. It's very good, very good.
That was I just keep going back and reading, but that was a true story. Absolutely an amazing story. They don't make them like that anymore.
No.
People.
No.
Yeah. So Samuel says, no one can look away from a train wreck. That's true. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. And then he says, mine was a ship and a boat also. If 100-foot is a boat and an 800-foot is a ship, I can't imagine crossing between the two or dealing with the swells at the same time. I barely can walk up and down the stairs probably.
Well, you don't really have to deal with the swells. You just have to rely on, in my case, you had to rely on the crane driver because they had to time when the boat was going up and the ship was going down. They have to time it, and when the net touches the boat, you have to jump off, and if you don't, you're going back up. So
wow. I guess my dad would know something about that. He was a boss man, but I mean, Texas oil man.
Yep.
He worked all over the world, but yeah, he had a lot of stories of injuries and things like that. So I can only imagine. I'd hate to do something like that. Okay, I thought, let's see, willow trees and snakes. Do you have personal experience with that? Because
Actually, when I was a kid in high school down in Texas, I had a good friend, and he was in a aluminum flat bottom boat, and he was paddling down Spindletop Bayou, which is close to where I live, and he went under a willow tree, and he also had a pistol on his hip, and in a holster, and he went under a willow tree, and a big cottonmouth fell right in the boat at his feet, and without thinking, he pulled out his pistol and emptied it and blew the bottom out of the boat, missed the snake, and went into the water with the snake. Fortunately, he must have scared the snake because it went in the opposite direction. But that's where that scene came from in the story.
Oh, see, you pull little things from life, whether they're your experiences or things that you've seen other people do or see, or it's interesting. Yeah, no, but I never thought of that before. I'm from South Texas, from the Gulf Coast area. And boy, I hate snakes. But when you mentioned that, and you said there was another part where he said that you have to have a cane pole before you go through the willow trees in the boat because I'm not going. I don't care who's shooting or what's going on. We're checking the willow tree first. Terrible, but funny. Let's see. Oh, what is a carrier? Cheryl Elliott asks. A carrier is a very large ship. Is there a better definition?
Yeah, I mean, I presume she means an aircraft carrier.
Talking about a ship. I'm sorry. I'm wrong.
Okay.
That's okay. Let's see. Tim Coppice. I'm new here and look forward to reading your books. Tim, they're great. Yes, I think you'll love them. And Samuel, I'm sorry I'm behind here, and now they start rolling in. Thank you, Jax. Jax answered her question.
Yeah.
And Mark Van Ram, thank you. He just purchased Surrender the Sun audiobooks. Thank you. And whenever you get to the Russian taxi driver, you'll know what I mean. Kevin Pierce is he's a genius, and I was rolling on the floor. Does he get your stuff better than you even thought of?
Yeah, I like Kevin. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he was wonderful. Samuel says, I personally respect all veterans, but the ones from World War II inspire me the most. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
A different breed. It's just, yeah. Okay, so willow trees. Let's see. Oh, okay. And this is very, because I'm from Texas, this is very Texan, and I picked up on that, and I thought only someone would say this about Texas, and it's not a good thing, but in my opinion. And again, I have to skip over some of the language. But you say, with all due respect, one of your characters says, with all due respect to you folks from the Gulf Coast. Sorry, it's my cat. If this is the apocalypse, I'd just as soon spend it in 90% humidity with all the skeeters that can stand flat-footed and violate turkeys. That throws you right in the middle. I mean, it's descriptive writing like that throws you right where you need to be in a story. Like, I would rather brave the roads and go and do it. Just drop me off. I don't want to go to South Texas.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes. And you mentioned something else, and I was involved in this a little bit, and so were you. So after after Harvey. Yeah, my family, South Texas, they were all terribly affected. And one of the biggest requests was mosquito spray.
Yeah.
That was like, please send mosquito spray. So we were sending stuff, that stuff like crazy down there, because it is a huge issue. It's a big problem. Disease, everything. And my uncle was out there. I have to plug somebody. So my uncle was down there, and after Harvey, one of the writers in Texas, and I'm so sorry I can't remember his name right now, but I'm going to have him on. He actually went to my aunt and uncle's place and helped them chop trees down. We've never met, but he did it because they needed it, and I posted about it.
That was Joe Nobody, wasn't it?
Yes, thank you, but I don't know his first name. It was Joe Nobody.
I mean, that's his pen name. I don't know what his real name is.
Exactly, right. I want to say it's David, but I don't want to say, I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never met him, and he's just, I mean, that's being a human being,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so hot. Yeah. And then you did this wonderful thing with Tom Abrams and wrangled a bunch of us authors to give away the first book in our series for a charity novel. I mean, that was fantastic, and I'm so thankful you involved me in that, and 26 other authers, I believe it was.
There were 25 of us all together. Tom put in 2 stories, so there were 26 stories, but there were 25 from not just post-apocalyptic, but all different types of folks. And it did quite well. I mean, 6 weeks we raised $31,000, I think, for the All America appeal. So
yeah, and I'm so thankful you asked me to be involved in that. That was
well. I thank you for participating.
Yeah, many of us, our families were directly affected, but you were the organizer of that, and that was you and Tom Abrams, and that was just wonderful.
Yeah, and it was great working with Tom, and I'm from that neck of the woods. I'm only from about 60 miles from Houston, so it was.
Yeah, I was born in McAllen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So. We're all. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Kevin is an excellent narrator. Yeah. We'll have to have him on again, maybe after he gets our next series done, because when we first started this, it was just on Blog Talk Radio, but now it's Facebook Live, so maybe he would come on with us again. Yeah. Great, Cheryl. Okay, so Let's see. There were a couple of other, let's see. Oh, here's another quote I had kind of set aside. We followed the time-honored concept. It's better to apologize than ask permission. Right? Now, whenever I thought of this, what were you thinking about whenever you wrote this?
That's pretty much the way I've lived my life.
Don't you learn that in the military, though? I mean, there are times when you have to use, you can't exactly follow orders. You've got to use free will. You've got to make the best decision, right?
Yeah.
You've got to, right. And
Yeah,
that is the way you should live life.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, I thought it was interesting that you wrote that because it's true. Yeah. Tim Copper says he found me through Kate Morris, my buddy Kate Morris. Yeah, Kate, I just adore her, and she's gonna come on soon too. Okay, they're still discussing what a carrier is, which is awesome.
Well, Mark ought to jump into that conversation since he worked at Newport News Shipbuilding and built a number of carriers. So he's
Gotcha.
you got a carrier expert right here. So
okay, so in your story, you have I don't know. There's at least let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 7 interweaving stories. And go ahead.
Yeah, 5 to 7, I think. I kind of lose track, but
Well, I guess some of them merge, just like in my books. A few of them will merge after a time, and then, yeah. But I thought the title was fitting because of that, because you really, really showcased Under a Telltale Sky. I mean, it really encompasses many different scenarios and what people have to, the hard choices and things that they have to do to live with things. So let's see if there are any more questions, and we're still discussing the carriers, and that's fantastic. Okay, so where can readers find your stuff? So first off, what are you reading right now? That's what I want to know. Because writers are readers too.
Actually, I'm reading some nonfiction stuff on EMP preparedness and so forth. I'm reading a lot of stuff by Arthur Bradley, who has a survivalist series, and he's actually quite knowledgeable. He works for NASA, and he does a lot of EMF shielding stuff, and even though he writes the fictional stuff, he has some he has some great nonfiction stuff as well.
Is he an engineer in his day job, or?
Yeah, he's a doctorate. He has a doctorate in electrical engineering. So
okay.
He's the go-to guy if you really want to know. There's a lot of myths about EMP and solar flares, and this will happen and that will happen. But he and a gentleman named Jerry Emanuel, who has a website called Future Science, are really the most knowledgeable about that particular subject. So I would advise anyone who is interested in all of to check out those two sources as authoritative. I have a hard time with that word.
Yeah. Let's see. Samuel Worstall says, Robert, please give a brief synopsis of the plot of your story. So, Under a Telltale Sky.
Okay. Well, a brief synopsis without actually going into the whole trilogy would be kind of tough, and there's like 500,000 words there. But generally, as I started out saying, it begins in Wilmington, North Carolina, on a ship that is there when a solar flare destroys the grid, and it follows the interwoven lives of the people on the ship and their families ashore as the ship makes it back to Texas, and some of the crew go by foot to Maine, and the government disintegrates, and FEMA becomes a bad actor, and it's tough to be more detailed, like I say, or like like Canetta said, there's like 7 different subplots running through 3 different books. So, but
one of the things I thought was really fantastic is you started off by showing the government's point of view, like the president, even though he ended up, being a corrupt guy, but starting off like the dilemma and how are they, in their mindset, how do they fix this? How do they deal with this? And I don't think I've ever read anything where anyone really showed that before. I thought you did an excellent job with that.
Well, what I also thought on that too was that, every human has the capability to be good or bad. Right. And I mean, faced with limited resources, and how are you going to expend these resources? I mean, there is a hope that we will all be altruistic and help our neighbor and so forth. But when it just won't go around, I mean, people start bringing things in to ensure their own survival. And if you have the absolute power, you're going to make sure you survive and those close to you. So,
yeah. And Cheryl Elliott says also the conflict of doing their duty and their families.
Yeah.
Yeah, being torn by all of that. And you showcased that very well. You did a really good job with that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you're reading Arthur Bradley, and I've heard I don't know why I don't know him. It's like I've seen him so many times in online and different events that I just haven't had the opportunity to talk with him, but I'll have to have him on at some point.
Yeah, he's quite a knowledgeable guy.
So where can readers find your stuff?
I am in KU, so I'm exclusive to Amazon at the present time. So they can get it on Amazon, and of course my audiobooks are on Audible, and okay. both ebooks and print books are on Amazon. So
do you have a website?
I do have a website, which is www.remcdermott.com.
Okay.
So, and there's a little bit about me there, and links to the books and so forth and so on. I at one time was a blogger, and I totally stunk at it because I didn't blog enough. So my blog had cobwebs on it. So I revamped my website recently and just got to the basics. And
yeah, sometimes I think we have to spend our time writing and researching.
Yeah, I do better interacting with my readers by email, and I probably do more of that than I should, because people email me and I email them back, and I've got this huge list of correspondence that I spend a lot of days, most of my days writing emails sometimes. But my readers are my friends too. I mean, it's incredibly flattering that someone will take their time to read your work, because I view time, and I view this more and more as I get older and I have less of it to spend. But no matter how rich you are, we all have the same amount of time. So the time to me is the most important commodity on earth, and you should spend it with people you like, doing things you like. So if someone takes some of their time to read my book, I feel that's incredibly flattering, and I'm very much in their debt. So,
me too. That is one. It's like an awe-inspiring thing that happens with authors.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you realize people all over the world are actually reading something you've written, and it's humbling. It's very humbling, I think.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So, what are you working on right now? So you've ended the series, right?
I'm going to revisit the post-apocalyptic series, the trilogy, because there's enough spinoffs there that I can do that. But like I say, my next project is going to be the World War II trilogy, because in actual fact, that's the story that I started writing in order to tell. But I wanted to do the story justice, and I didn't really feel like I was a good enough writer starting out. So, as I've gained confidence, I've written 6 books now, and I I kind of think I know how to tell a story. So, but but that was a learning experience. My first book was a horrible tome, and you'll laugh when I tell you this. My first book, Deadly Straits, was 400,000 words.
Holy moly!
And I revised it 13 times before it got to be ready for prime time over 3.5 years. So people, they have the whole meme about you have to write 1 million words before you write something worth publishing, and I did, but I don't think that meant for it to be the same book 13 times. But I tried to read the Bible once, but I never made it through. But I have read Genesis 27 times. So
right, we keep starting it. Tim says, "One never knows how much personal connections mean to others," and that is very true. Yeah,
that's true. I have readers that have sent me emails that, I read your books when I was going through chemotherapy, and they took my mind off, my problems. And one woman wrote me, her husband was going through chemotherapy and she was waiting, and other people that have had problems, and and when someone shares that with you, I mean, it's really humbling, and it makes you really feel like, if no one else ever read the book, it makes you feel like you've done something worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people are going through all kinds of different things out there, and if they can escape for a little while in a book that you've written, that's a wonderful, thing that I feel like we've been able to do unwittingly.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. Anyway, okay. So, is there anything else you want to say? Do you want people to follow you on? I know for sure that you are not on Facebook very often, but you will.
Well, I've been out of town a bit, and in an area where I don't have any internet coverage, so I haven't been. I am when I'm home. I'm there usually every day, but I don't. I mainly communicate through email, but
you're doing it right.
I'm sorry.
I said, you're doing it right. The rest of us are doing it wrong. Getting away from the internet and doing it the right way, I think.
Yeah, well, most of the time when I'm away, though, I'm not writing. I'm spending my time trying to clear fallen trees off roads and put up fences and things of that nature. But
at the same time, I bet you're thinking of, while you're doing those things, you're probably thinking of how you can fit it in a story or what's going,
I am. And as a matter of fact, Friday I have to go back down there and take delivery of our solar system. So I'll have another project, and I'm sure I'll get some stories for books out of that. So, because nothing ever goes smoothly.
Never. Best laid plans and all. Okay, is there anything else you want to say? Is there any other?
Just it was great being on, and I thank you for having me. I would point out that when you recruited me back at the beginning of this effort, you didn't tell me I was going to have to be on camera. Yeah, that's what you tell everybody, I'm sure.
After Kevin Pierce, they pulled it because of too many commercials on Blog Talk Radio, and then suddenly Pam Stack said, well, you could do Facebook Live, and I went, but then they're going to see my face. I didn't. Voice was okay with me, but now it's the face. So yeah, I would not.
Well, I'm sure they will rather look at you than me.
Okay. So stay on with me while I say this, and then we'll talk after.
Okay.
So my next show is not going to be until July 11th. So next week is 4th of July. Yay! And so next Wednesday I don't have a show. So if anyone's on it, please follow Apocalypse Queen Radio, and then you can always sign up for the reminders to shows of the authors you want to see whenever I post them. So you'll get those notices. But the week after that, of July 11th, I will be in Manhattan for Thriller Fest, and George R.R. Martin will be there, and many other authors, and I'm definitely going to track a few down and try to get them to interview. Hopefully, we'll see. And then the next show that I have scheduled so far is July 25th with G. Michael Hoff, and a lot of you guys know who he is. And his new release, The Last Ride, will be out, and so we will talk about that new release. And they're westerns. So isn't there a connection between post-apocalypse and westerns? I think so. I mean,
I think so. Yeah.
It's like post-apocalyptic now is like the new westerns, really.
Well, Tom Abrams had a series that kind of fit into that genre, and Russell Blake did some as well. So that were kind of post-apocalyptic westerns. So
Tom Abrams was on, and we talked about his, and then I'm going to have Russell Blake on, and I've read some of those as well. And they're very westerny, but apocalyptic. It's like you go into the apocalypse, and then suddenly we're in a western.
Yeah.
That's really John Wayne walked down, and that would be fine. That would be totally normal. Yeah. So that is July 25th. And I think that's all I have. So I'm going to say thank you all for attending.
And thank you, everybody. Also, I would like to express my thanks. So,
thank you for coming on very much, Bob.
Thank you.
We're going to say good night. Henry, the cat says
good night.
Good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.